So this video is going to show you how to export a survey from Bristol Online Surveys and bring that into NVivo. Bristol Online Surveys is the University of Hull's survey tool. It's very powerful. If you've not got access to this, you can request it from IT, although if you are a student you will need to get your supervisor to request this for you. There's lots of advice on the BOS website as to how to use it. Today I am just focusing on how to get my results into NVivo. So what I've done here is I've clicked on one of my surveys and I've clicked on Analyze, and this shows us the kind of default data interpretation that BOS outputs. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on Export, and I'm going to export my response data. In here, the important thing is that I'm saving it in an Excel format. Because I'm not doing anything statistical, I do not want to code my exports. But what I do want to bring in is my unique response number. And I don't want to code anything, I don't want to exclude anything else. So that's what I need. And I click on export, and you can see I've downloaded that file now. So I'm not going to open this file because if I open it, NVivo won't be able to process it, or at least not while it's open in Excel. So I've got a blank project here in NVivo, and all I'm going to do is in my internals I'm going to right click, go to import, and then you can see here we've got the import survey option, and I'm just going to bring it in from the Microsoft Excel file. The easiest way to find this, if you're on Windows 10, is just to go to Quick Access. It'll list all of the files that you've recently saved to your computer, and if it's not available there, you should be able to just find it in your downloads. You can order by date, and you can see here the results are right at the top for me there. So if I open that up, you can see it opens up this automatic survey import wizard. That's really useful as it's going to do a lot of automated work in here. So you can see each line, so each row of our survey, the respondents are going to be stored as cases. So unlike a survey where we might have names for them, they're just going to be allocated a number for this. Close-ended questions are created as attributes, so that means we'll be able to graph them, or when we're later interpreting the open-ended questions, we can use those attributes for that, particularly when they're saved in their cases for demographics. And then finally, the open-end questions are created as nodes, and that's a structural node essentially, so it means I can click on that and it will show me everyone's answer to that one question. Otherwise, I can just use this like a normal data set within NVivo and code it up. So if we click next to continue, it's going to show me all of the data that is about to be brought in. So you can see there's a couple of questions that it's asking me here. So the first is how many rows are used for your question headers. You can see within BOS it's just one, so we can leave it at that. And if we scroll across here, we can just double check everything's included in there. And then it asks what order the dates are in. In this case, if I look at my data, there are no dates in here, so I can just ignore that. If I click next, it's going to ask me where it wants me to store those cases. So you can see it's going to create a folder or a group case, I should say, by the same name as the file that I've brought in. It's going to use the unique response number as the ID for the cases. I could choose one of these other columns if I wished. So if you had asked people's names, you could put that in there. But generally speaking, with most of the surveys, you're going to have to just use that unique response number. And then of course it's going to ask us for the classification name, and survey respondent is fine for that. So if I click next, it's going to help me identify my open and closed-ended questions. So a closed question is one where there's a limited number of answers. So here we've got a really good example of gender. It's either male or female in this survey, I believe. So it's closed. And then if we look at this one here, which spotlight did you attend? I could say whether it's open or closed. There was a finite list there, so I'm going to list that as closed. And then you'll see here when we're asking questions that are open, like please give an example or please give a reason, people could have typed anything. So those are the open-ended questions, and I want to leave them as such. With those in place, I can click on Finish, and it's going to import everything, create my attributes, and bring everything into NVivo for me. Here we can see it's loaded up my data as a data set. I can scroll through it, and the ones that are white here, these are my open-ended questions. So these are the ones that I can go through, right click and code, or drag and drop and code. One of the important things to remember with NVivo is that this is focused on the qualitative interpretation of data. So it's not actually going to help us do any statistics, but it will give us some numbers and it will help us quantify some of them. So for all of these closed-ended questions, we can actually produce graphs and diagrams that represent the answers. So if I click on my chart tool here under the Explore ribbon, I can chart dataset coding by attribute value. And what that essentially will let me do is go into Select, open up the survey respondent case, and then I can choose one of the questions. So for example, if I go for gender here, it's going to let me produce a graph that's going to demonstrate participant gender. I could change the type of chart at the top here. But essentially what we can see from here, very low number of male responses compared to female, and I could right click and export that chart and use that in my work. If I just close this chart to head back to the data set, you'll see the whole thing is set out like this. I can click on Form, and this will show me just one respondent at a time. So here we can see this is respondent 3. As I click through, using these arrows at the bottom, I can just work through and see what different answers people gave. And once again, I can highlight, I can code, and treat these like I would with any kind of open text. If I close that, just reopen NVivo there, we've got to remember it did some other automated processes as part of this. So if I go into my nodes, you'll see there's a folder here, and in here we've got just the open-ended questions. So if I double click on one of these, so this was the question, I can't see the full thing, so if I right click and go to node properties, please give an example to support your answer. This is just basically everyone's answer to that. So I could code all of these up and try and make sense of this a little bit more. You'll notice as I'm in a node as well, I have a contextual ribbon at the top, so I could just view a word cloud of people's responses to this question, and that'll give me a really quick visual look at what people have said in response. Just run the query and view the word cloud. So there we go, that's quite nice because straight away you can see there's some common themes there, helped accessing in journals there as well, so you can get a feel for what some of those workshops were about as well. So if I close this all down here, you'll notice there's also a new folder under here of cases. So each one of these is one of the survey participants, and if I just right click on this and go to the case properties, you'll see under attribute values you can see everyone's response, well sorry, just this individual's response to the closed questions here. And if I wanted to view everybody's, I could just go to Explore, and then I could go to Case Classification Sheets Survey Respondent. So this was quite a small survey with small closed questions, but this would be very useful for large surveys where people are giving you quite in-depth open responses that you want to understand more. You can use this for mixed methods as well, so you may want to pair some questions in SPSS where you're looking for statistical significance, and then do the more qualitative aspects of that within NVivo as well. So if you are using a mixed methods approach, you can use NVivo in that guise.